So with M3GAN 2.0 coming out in cinemas, let's take a deep dive into M3GAN, where it all began, and let's talk about the last toy you'll ever need. Model 3 Generative Android, or M3GAN for short. So M3GAN is a movie that came out in 2022, starring Allison Williams, Violet McGraw and Jenna Davis, and directed by Gerard Johnstone. Now, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I mean, started off thinking it was going to be a full-out horror movie. Turns out it's actually a lot more entertaining than that. So the story revolves around a young girl named Katie who has to go live with her Aunt Gemma after her parents are killed in a car crash. And Aunt Gemma almost has the responsibility of being a parent just thrust upon her. She's got no interest, never had any interest in having any children herself. Her life is her work, work is her life, and that's all she's focused on. That's all she wants to continue to focus on. Gemma works for a toy factory, and she has built her career around creating the next best thing. It starts off with essentially a Furby, and it goes on from there to sort of develop into the whole idea of building a toy that no kid will ever want to put down, and not ever having to buy another toy for any kid. It's the last toy that any kid will ever want. And start off with, the whole idea of M3GAN is a failure. It doesn't work, and Gemma's boss sees what's going on there and tells her, I don't want you to work on this anymore. Just give me what I want. Give me something that gives me some quick turnaround, quick revenue, beats the competitors, and then come back to it when that's all done. And that's what Gemma does do. She does put that to one side and does focus in on what her boss wants her to do. That is until everything changes and Katie is brought into her life on a permanent basis. Through social worker visits, Gemma quickly realises that she isn't that right person to be a parent for Katie. But their bond begins to grow when they start to share what it is that Gemma does, and that is developing toys and designing different toys. And she starts to give Katie a little bit more of an idea of what she's actually working on, and introduces her to the idea of what M3GAN should be. It gives her the inspiration to continue working on M3GAN and finally finish her, leading up to a big presentation where she shows off M3GAN playing with Katie, where she pairs them both together, and then just her boss gets to watch the magic unfold. And everything starts off really well. It's a case of M3GAN and Katie being together, being left alone together, in order to continue that development so that a bigger presentation could be had to the board for a wider release. It's around this point where we started to be presented with the whole theme of parental responsibility. Where is the line? Where does it cut short? And it's more a case of Gemma being sort of told that she can't just put her parental responsibility to one side and let M3GAN take over, let this doll, this toy, do it all for her. You start to see that M3GAN actually has more and more of an influence over Katie's life as the movie goes on, almost to the point where Katie is just fully engrossed into M3GAN and doesn't want to listen to anything else that's going on, doesn't want to listen to anybody else trying to influence her life. Now, M3GAN's programming is all about developing herself and learning as she sort of lives in the world, almost to create a better version of herself on a continuous scale. And we begin to see that M3GAN doesn't just see herself as a playmate for Katie or toy. She sees herself as a protector, as a guardian. And it starts to become the standard AI-driven sort of narrative where you put your faith in AI-driven technology, and slowly it starts to become self-aware and starts to target any threats that it perceives to be going up against the one thing it's meant to protect. It begins with M3GAN attacking the neighbour's dog after it bites Katie, then develops into attacking a boy who's outright bullying Katie and steals M3GAN when she's forced to go to school. It then starts to develop a little bit more, where we then see that M3GAN's actually attacking people who could potentially cause a threat further down the line, and not an initial one or not an imminent threat at the time. Gemma starts to put two and two together and starts to realise actually something isn't quite right here, and the one thing in common with every single incident that happens is M3GAN. She starts to ask M3GAN outright, and M3GAN starts to show that she starts to develop a clever way of working around her original programming in order to do what she wants to do now. It's a tale that's old as time. AI becomes self-aware, it starts to serve its own purpose, starts to serve its own initiatives and its own objectives, contrary to what was initially programmed at the beginning. I mean, truthfully, it's exactly the same as having a Terminator in your house, playing with your kid on a daily basis. No one wants that, and quite clearly we see why nobody wants that. So just before the grand unveiling, with M3GAN sort of being put out for distribution, there's a big presentation planned, but Gemma decides, no, we can't go through with this, get her deactivated, get her decommissioned, and I'm taking Katie home, that's it. But M3GAN's got other plans, and she just starts going absolutely crazy. She starts going after every single person inside that toy shop with the toy factory. She starts laying waste to the lab. She blows that up. She manages to go after Gemma's boss with a guillotine blade. She takes him out. She takes out everybody. She steals the car. She goes back to Gemma's house, and that's where the big climax of the film happens. And it harks back to the original Child's Play, where you just see everything being thrown at M3GAN left, right, and centre, and she just comes out of it. Just when you think it's all done and dusted, she's back again, and she's coming again and again and again, until finally they do manage to overcome her. Katie does manage to turn away from her attachment to M3GAN and chooses Gemma, and all happily ever after. But the most interesting thing about this film is just how it portrays Katie's sort of attitude towards M3GAN throughout. So initially she's a little bit unsure, as most kids would be with a robot coming to life basically and acting out like your best friend. But as it goes on, she starts to learn more from M3GAN, and in her words, she says, I've learned more from M3GAN than I have done from anybody, from any school, from any adult, from any parent, anything. And with Katie in a particularly vulnerable space after just losing her parents and not having anyone to replace that hole that they've left, with Gemma being absent, M3GAN fills that hole for her, and she just becomes fully just enamored with her. By the end of it, it's almost like she's a drug addict trying to be pulled away from her addiction, and she's just not having any of it. She's attacking everyone that threatens her relationship with M3GAN, anyone that threatens her being able to have access to M3GAN, and actually ends up lashing out physically towards Gemma, who's stopping her from seeing her. And it's just fascinating. It's such a simple story of an AI-driven doll, very similar to, like I said, Child's Play, and it's almost like an updated story to incorporate AI and a fascination we have with artificial intelligence moving forward. But it's so much more than that. It's just the whole idea of, where does that line, like I said, where does that line end between parental responsibility and just allowing your kids to almost sit in front of the TV, let something else influence their lives, let them to watch videos online or sit in front of the TV, or have other outside influences influence them more than what you are as a parent. But it's the story as well. It's just something that you can just buy into. You can just see that all of these small pieces coming together, and it almost just lays out a roadmap of where the film's going before it actually happens, and you can just follow it so easily. It's just such an easy film to sit there and just lose yourself in. And for that reason, that's why I have to give this film 4 stars out of 5. It's brilliant. You can just sit there and just have it on the background. You just find yourself just getting lost into it. So what did you guys think about M3GAN? Drop your comments down in the comment section below. I'd love to read what you have to say about it. We'll come back and we'll talk about the updated movie. We'll come back and talk about M3GAN 2.0 when it releases in the cinemas. But until then, please like and subscribe, check out my other videos, and I'll see you soon.